let's get into it. Like, why is our educational system failing? Why is it failing us? Why is it failing our students? It's failing the parents. It's failing our own teachers that are working inside of the classroom. And this is something that is very personal to me because one thing, I grew up wanting to be a teacher and I taught inside the classroom for 14 years. I recently stepped away. I now have my daughters going in through now the educational system. And it's something I'm very passionate about. It's something that I want to make sure that not only for my own children, but for other children and our society as a whole, that we can have a strong educational system. And one thing that I am seeing and I'm not happy with, and I'm calling it a failing, because I'm not seeing that we are serving not only just our students, our teachers, our parents, our society the best with the educational framework that we currently have. And the best way that I can describe this, or actually before we get to this, and you can see like I'm very passionate. A lot of times when I have videos like this, I'll get an idea and I'll just kind of map up some points. But in this one, I was very, very passionate. I just started writing and everything was coming out of my brain as fast as I could even write. But it's one of those things where a lot of people are like, oh, you like math and, you're a math teacher and you're such a, math nerd. And it's like, yeah, I do enjoy math. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a math nerd, but really the thing that really gets me passionate is serving students and education. And I really, really want to make sure that every student has the best teacher inside of their classroom, and therefore they are set up for success with their time and on their teacher. And in my opinion, we are not doing that in our educational system. And the best way I can explain this is recently I was cooking a dinner for our family. And what happens is, we have like a decently sized kitchen, not a huge kitchen, but not a very, very small kitchen, but there is limited counter space, right? And so if I'm usually cooking like one or two things at a time, and then my wife comes in and she's going to start doing some things, and then somebody else is coming in there moving stuff. And what happens? There's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? There's limited counter space. So what happens? Somebody's mess gets in somebody else's mess, and that ruins that. And then they have to spend their time fixing or cleaning that up. People are bumping into each other, overdoing what one person did. Somebody's like grabs out the thing of milk, then the other person puts it back, right? And so what happens is it's not an efficient process. It's best to have a single cook, maybe some sous chefs in there, to go ahead and understand what they need to do and game plan. But when you have so many other people that are all trying to do the same thing inside the same space, you start overcrowding each other and you start undoing and taking a lot longer than something should be, than it takes for something to be produced. And you actually, like, if you're trying to make this objective, a lot of times you end up with something that is not what you are intended to do. Okay. And that's that idea of like too many, cooks in the kitchen, too many people trying to draw the shots, too many people trying to take over, have things go their way. And it ends up just not being a very efficient system. And in my opinion, that's exactly what we have in our educational model at the moment. We have the federal education, why can't I even think of why did I not even write? All right, there we go. I couldn't even think about it. So we have the federal, Department of Education. We have the state Department of Education. Then we have our school boards. We have a superintendent and all of the people that work under the superintendent. We have the principal, right? We have all the assistant principals and all the other people that are, assistant principals. What is the word? Why am I losing my train of thought all this time? Administrators. We have all the other administrators. Then we have the teachers. And then we have the parents and the students. All of these people have a stake in our educational process, right? And all of them are going to be making different decisions or want different things and have a valid interest in educating our students. But the problem is, from what I see, is that is too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many people that are trying to make decisions that are reducing our ability to be able to make change, or reducing our ability to be able to provide a quality education. Now, there's 2 points to this. One is this was very apparent to me and very vivid and obvious when we had COVID, right? There were so many things that needed to be changed quickly. We didn't, you could say what we knew was COVID and shutting down, we had a little leeway. But if you look at how our school systems were able to react, going immediately online and dealing with all the safety with students and everything like that, you could say schools did a good job and, parents, whatever may be the case. But it was very, very difficult. It was a very slow moving process I think across the board, compared to if we had something that was a little bit smaller, be able to, certain, smaller like restaurants or businesses or everything else, they were able to pivot much, much quicker, where our educational system was very, very slow. Because again, it's also very archaic, right? I mean, we've been doing the same educational model for years and years. And the only way something like that is going to change when you have such a big bureaucracy, as I mentioned, from the federal, right, to the state, the school boards, is something like COVID, which like kind of shoots this jolt into it, like, oh crap, like this model, like this is not going to work right now. We need to change things. But it was very difficult for that to change. But COVID was one thing that kind of came in and I think kind of shattered it a little bit, realizing that we need to be able to make changes much quicker. And it's very, very difficult when you have so many cooks in the kitchen. The other thing is there's the hierarchy, right? This is one of the frustrating things when I was a teacher is, you can only do so much because you have to be able to follow what the principal does. And the principal can only do so much because the principal has to follow what the superintendent is saying. The superintendent is, kind of hands are tied based on the school board. The school board hands are tied based on the state Department of Education. The state Department of Education is kind of hand tied because of the federal Department of Education. And that makes things very, very difficult to be able to do things, or as I mentioned, change things, right? Everybody kind of feels like they're hand tied or they're constantly having to, follow through whatever the rules for the people above them. And the thing that I see also is that is kind of upside down with this, because my passion, or one of the things that I feel the strongest about, is who is the most important person in all of those people that I mentioned. And I forgot to even mention before the teachers, that you have the parents and the students, right? Those are actually the ones that are getting the education. But from the parents and the students, or from the students up, who's the most important? The parents, the teachers, the administrators, superintendent, the school board, the Department of State Education, federal education. It's not the parents. It's not the superintendent. It's not anybody above them. My biggest opinion, my biggest passion, now I want to say my biggest point that I think is the most important person in that whole process is the teachers. If we have high quality educators, we can be able to have a high educational system. And here's the problem. We're out of teachers. Nobody wants to become a teacher anymore. Now, I stepped away for my own personal reasons, which I get through in other videos. But here's the thing. The constant talk from everybody above the teacher is we need to recruit. That's the problem. Nobody wants to become a teacher. So you can recruit. And guess what? You can pay them. You can give them, more money and everything like that. And you'll find some people that will become teachers. But the thing is, they're just going to be following through on your rules above you, right? They just want you to do what you're supposed to be doing. So therefore, they can justify their job above them and go on and on and on. But the problem is the whole system is broken. The whole system needs to be addressed and fixed. Because as we saw through COVID, there's a lot of cracks. It's very, very difficult to change or to get better at something when we see something is not working. Everybody's just following through the same train tracks. And I think the biggest issue, as you see, is like, if your biggest focus is on recruitment and not on retention, that's where it comes in. Because if you can't keep high quality educators, you have a problem in your system. And that's one of the biggest things that's one of the biggest pain points that I want to start off this video is our educational system is treating or getting high quality teachers. Because teachers, yes, they want more money, right? Yes, they can, want more flexibility. And there's all these other great things that come with like any job. People are always going to, want more better and better things and, whatever may be the case. But in my opinion, the biggest thing that teachers want to do is teach. They want authority to be able to run their classroom. They want authority to be able to, make decisions on students' educational journey. And there's a lot of things that go into it. So I don't want to just take this blanket statement, going from there. But I think the best thing to retain at least teachers is treat them as professional teachers inside the classroom. Now, I know we could go on a tangent on this. So I could probably make a whole video on this, which I probably will, which is a good idea. But on this part, I just want to kind of talk about I'm going to go through a whole litany of points that the reasons why education is failing us and some ideas that we can go through. But number one is just retaining high quality teachers. Give them the authority. And what else? Give them the authority and the autonomy to be able to run their classrooms. Because here's the thing. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to recognize when you have a good teacher. I know we have these like ways that we assess our teachers and, we can knock them down and everything else. But if you are worth your grain of salt, if you are like a normal human being, you know good teaching when you know good teaching. And those good teachers, we have to keep those good teachers. We have to be able to keep them. And then we keep on recruiting better and better ones. But if they're not happy with their job, if they feel like being a teacher is no longer for them, that's where we know we have a problem in the system. It's not because of the teachers. It's not because of the pay. It's not because we have a problem in our educational system. And the teachers are telling us that. It's showing us, and we need to fix it. So I'll talk about some ways that we need to keep, how we can keep these teachers, as well as some different things that we need to improve your education. So let's move on from there. So number one is retain teachers, give them the authority and the autonomy of their classroom. And I actually didn't go through these in any kind of order. I just started writing things down. As I mentioned, I got like very heated. Even right now, I'm like excited to kind of go through these, but I got to go back and look at my notes. So I'll be doing some pauses here and there. So number two is actually kind of goes in with my intro, which is, the main focus on educational system is how is this going to be impacting our student journey, right? And I think one of the biggest problems that I see is that bureaucratic ladder that I talked about, right? Everything should evolve on how is this going to benefit our students? That's it. That's the number one question. Actually, not the number one question. That's the only question we need to focus on. How is this going to be benefiting our students? Because from what it happens is when we have this conglomerate of people, I don't want to like be bogged down in just bureaucratic stuff. Like we have this conglomerate of people that are making all these decisions on education. People are just justifying what they're doing, what their job, this new stuff that we have to do and everything else, just to basically justify the reason of their job. Because there are way too many people, in my opinion, that are in this educational system making decisions and over like crisscrossing each and every one of us. We need to answer our question. Any decision that we're making, how is this benefiting our students? How is this helping the educational journey for them? I think it's a very, very important question that we need to ask, and any decision needs to kind of go through that filter. So number three, this one's kind of a weird one, but it's something I've been thinking about. And that one kind of goes through is like removing restrictions on students. I think we need to understand, we need to adapt to the day and age, with the way technology is, with the AI is like coming in and like students, inflation is real and students need jobs and to make money. And I think we need to kind of get away from the way that education has always been and just say, oh, that's just the way it's going to be. I think we need to kind of, look a little bit forward and say like, all right, how can we best benefit our students, give them what they need, and then give them what they need, but not like require so much, from them. Because I've had many, many students that just are sitting in the classroom. They're like, why am I, it's basically like they're just forced to sit inside the classroom. So therefore they can get a graduation, they can get their degree, right? And a degree doesn't mean as much as it used to, 40, 50 years ago. Same thing like with a college degree. It just doesn't mean as much. It means like, what can you do for me? That is the most important question. Like, what can you do with your knowledge? Not what pieces of paper can you obtain? And again, I am totally for you staying and getting your getting college degree and education, high school diploma and everything like that. But I think there's this little disconnect where, schooling up to 18 years old or even in college or higher education is not for everybody. And we got away from that for, I think, the last like 40 years of just pushing this pipeline of everybody needs to go to college and everybody needs to, graduate, high school and the data, how much more money you make and blah, 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 blah. Right. But the problem is, I think that, not everybody learns at the same level and at the same time frame. Everybody's not ready. I think to pursue a higher education, or they need a higher education to, work in their family business, or immediately go from, college right after high school. I think something that's a little bit unconventional in my approach is like, I think we still need a standardized education, but rather than saying like, you need to go to like 18, have something applied where like you can go up to 16. Like we want you inside of a classroom, or at least showing up just till you're like 16. But then after 16, I think we need to have better options. I think we need to have better options as far as, online schooling, having students that will be able to, go and get a job, like get into trade, like they can still continue their education. Just because you're not continuing this, going through the high school system doesn't mean you still can't continue going to college or taking other classes or going into trades. I mean, I just think we handcuff so many students. Like you have to force them to be inside the, the high school classroom. And what happens is they become a disruption to the teachers. They disrupt the other students that are trying to work hard, that actually need those classes and want those classes and focus in. And then there's these people that just don't want to be there. There's other things that they can be doing or should be doing, rather than being forced to sit inside of a classroom, in this archaic, learning style. It's not for everybody. And while I think we need to provide an education, have that ability to provide for everybody, I think at the age of 16, we need to provide students with other choices. And the way that we have educational, like online schooling, and we've gotten rid of the trades inside the classrooms, we're doing a disservice to our students, having them all go through the same kind of system. I think we need to be a little bit more creative in the requirements and opportunities that we provide our students. And this kind of goes into the teacher so much. So one of the problems with teaching is, and especially with teachers, is the pressure, right? I said it previously, I wanted teachers to have more autonomy and authority inside of the classroom. Well, that's a problem. And I get that problem because what happens is when we put so much pressure on students for grades, right? Then you have dealing with parents and students that are like, hey, Miss B doesn't like me. She gave me a B because she doesn't like me or blah, blah, blah. And now I just lost a $20,000 scholarship. Like, that's crazy. But it's totally true. I mean, it can be like, if you're not getting a certain GPA and because this one teacher doesn't like you or this one teacher is a bad teacher, whatever may be the case, they can have a literal impact. And that's where I had students. I mean, they would drop my class if they got a B. And it was all the focus on. The only thing they cared about was getting a scholarship or getting to a certain school or anything. It was not about the learning. And that really kind of ruined, I wouldn't say ruined the relationship with the student, but it ruined my ability as a teacher to actually teach. And I don't know if I have a perfect solution for this, but, this kind of goes into like that, 16 years old, it's like after 16 years old, like if you want to, challenge yourself and you want to be in this, high demand, courses where your GPA and grades are everything, then that's fine. Sign up for it. And whatever teachers sign up for those classes, like it's game on. But I think a lot of times, we have students that, and teachers that, don't sign up for those high stakes grades and high stakes, courses. It's like taking an AP class, right? You take an AP class, you signed up for it. Like it's high stakes. And if you don't want to have those high stakes, then don't sign up for AP classes, right? So I think it's very difficult to become a teacher when you're constantly being bombarded about, my student deserves this grade or they need to, they need to get an A in their class and whatever else. And a lot of times, so like I never got encouraged to change students' grade, but you could feel the pressure, right? I mean, I had students that would say, I'm not leaving my class. I'm not leaving your class until, this grade is changed or whatever else. And it's like, they would cry in my class and everything else. Like I had to stand my ground, but the pressure is real. And, if there's a way that we can treat teaching and education about education and teaching. And that's where I think like up to that 16 years old, like reduce that pressure, right? Just allow students to learn. And students can just learn for the sake of learning and not feel like they're constantly competing and pressure. Like, I think we'll be serving our students much better. And then after 16 years old, if you want to go into college prep, it's game on. It's, there's a lot of pressure into that. Go to those AP classes and everything else. There's pressure but that's what you want to sign up for. That's fine. If you just want to take a couple extra classes and, go into trade or military or whatever may be the case, like just learn what you need to learn. But so many students get turned off, I think, on education, and teachers get turned on education because there's so much pressure on them for the students to have to learn. And a lot of times those students, don't come in with the knowledge that they need to be successful. And then it's the teacher's fault, right? And again, obviously there's teachers that are not equipped to be able to teach some of those classes and, rightfully so from the parent, from the parents and students' perspective. But I think if we can try to remove some of that pressure that from the high stakes from the teachers and from the education of everybody forcing them to go to college and get the best grades and everything else, because you can see, I can't remember, I read a report like grades have just been inflated. It's like where students used to whatever grade point average was like in the 80s. And now everybody's so much higher. And it's not so much that everybody's smarter, but it's like the pressure has gotten so much more that it's like there's so much more pressure for teachers, from parents and students to be able to get better grades. And you can kind of see how things have been directly or maybe indirectly inflated in that regard. So if you're gonna give teachers, if you're going to take off some pressure and you're going to give teachers more authority and autonomy over the classroom, I think there does have to be some kind of reciprocal movement from there. So, when I was my last couple of years of teaching, I recorded every single lesson. I put it online, and you can see that's how many of you know of me. It's like my lessons are all online, and I think one thing too that we need to be more transparent for parents. And with teachers, as far as what education, like what lessons and everything else that we are teaching and we are bringing to the classroom. I don't think everybody needs to go on YouTube and provide their lessons, but I'm a big proponent of, well, let me say this. I hesitate a little bit as a teacher because I remember one time they wanted me to like post all my lesson plans. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. I'm not posting my lesson plans. Like it's just going to be scrutinized. That's all it happens. You post it and then it just gets scrutinized. So I don't want to do anything that's going to cause more work from teachers. I want teachers to teach. I don't want them to be worried about being scrutinized for what they're teaching, how they're teaching, and whatever else. And again, I'm talking about math here. I'm just staying within the math realm. I know we can go into completely different topics and other courses. I'm sticking with math, but I do think I do think with police cameras and everything else, like we've kind of grown a society where those are some of the things we expect. And some of the things when we feel like we need questions, we kind of want to look at that like video evidence. And so I don't know. I'm starting to become a little bit more a proponent of like having, videos like in the classroom, either as like documenting the teacher's instruction and literally having it available for a student if they did miss class, like they can actually literally watch it. Not so much as like teachers walking around with body cameras. I think that's just weird. And also not something that's like, just post on YouTube like I used to do, even though I didn't, show students, but having something where, I don't know, they would have access to at least seeing the content that teachers provided. So therefore there is an educational benefit on there. And there is some transparency between the teachers and the students and the teacher, the student, and the parents. Because one of the things a lot of times, we would get all the time, whenever I'd had an issue with the students, especially with grades, they say, oh, well, you are teaching this, or this is how, the lesson would be. And like, sometimes it would just be like, blatantly false. And I just wish I'm like, no, let's go back to the recording. Let me show you, or the parents would accuse me from what their child said. And, I'd be like, you're more than welcome to cop into my classroom at any time and watch my lesson. Right. And see how I react to my students or anything like that, So I don't know. I'm not in love with the idea, but I'm kind of getting more open and moving to like having that transparency inside the classroom. It's like as a parent now myself, I want to get as much feedback as possible from what my daughter is learning and how she's interacting in ways that I can support her. And, the older you get with your students, the harder it is for you to get feedback from your teacher, right? Because your teacher starts dealing with more and more students. So I think the more that we can provide some feedback for our parents to better support us, because we need parents as teachers to be able to support us with our children. And so I'm starting to become a little bit more open to that idea. And speaking of need parent involvement, but I think one of the biggest things that I just mentioned is parent involvement. I don't think we can fix the educational, I wouldn't say crisis, the educational model that we currently have unless we have parent involvement. Because, I always talk about one of my parent conferences, whenever we're dealing with anything, I'm like, I'm not a savior. I cannot fix everything for your child, and even sometimes your child, it's like, it's hard to overcome things. Or like parent, you want your child to be doing this, this, and this. Like it's a lot. It's called a trinity: the parent, the teacher, and the student. We have to be working together. And I think it's really tough for a lot of parents because how many times that I had parent conferences, the parents like, I had to take off work to, do that, to meet with you for this parent conference. And I'm like, how do you expect your parents to be fully involved in their child's education, which is almost sometimes feels like a part-time job in itself, especially if your child was like me when I was in high school and I didn't tell my parents anything, right? Or everything was always fine. but how do you expect parents to be involved if they, if they're working full-time jobs and they have, multiple kids and everything else? Like, it's very difficult and it's very, very hard. So I don't have a perfect solution for as far as getting parent involvement. One thing I did think about that, I don't know if it's something from the federal or even if it would be privatized business, but I think it's really, really important for parents to meet the teacher and to have that dialogue. And if the parents is not going to initially be, emailing the teacher or, that's not the way to go. Like, I feel like every parent should be at least be able to go to an open house, or they should be able to have a parent conference, and I don't know if that's something we should be treating the educational requirements from parents with their students, just like a sick day or a leave. But I would like parents to be able to have the opportunity where they can volunteer inside their student's classroom. They can go and have a parent conference. They can, meet with the principal, meet with the, meet with the counselor or anything else, and not be penalized because they are trying to work and provide for their, family. Because it's tough, right? I mean, it's, people are just trying to get by, but students need support. And the older they get, sometimes the more support that they need, especially I taught high school, and, it's very difficult for students. They'd struggle in my class, and, a lot of times their parents were just, they couldn't be there, for them to be able to help support them when they needed them, and they weren't able to check up to them. And then sometimes those students would fall through the cracks. And so, I think if we can at least provide some open access to encourage more parental involvement, you're going to see that when parents are more involved in their students' education and the decisions that are going on, I feel like that provides the students with a stronger foundation for success, because they know that their parents are involved and their parents are invested in their education. And that's something very, very important I think, to see as students, rather than just like, oh, nobody's going to notice if I don't do this, so I'm just not going to do it. And for a lot of students, they like that, and they know they can get away with things they can get away with. And unfortunately they do. And, they go off track and they never get back on track from then. Or then sometimes they find somebody as a mentor that helps them out and gets them back on track. But I think, I think that we need to have support for students, and parents is the number one support system, because teachers can't do it all. It's like, sometimes we feel like, I feel like a lot of times teachers, like parents, are just like dump their kids off and just expect teachers to be able to work miracles. And unfortunately, that's the way that educational system has kind of become at this moment. But we have to be able to turn it back to whereas the teacher is really the supporter for the parents running or helping their student become the best that they can be and get the education they need to get. Education they can get. So furthermore, to get that support, one thing I talked about at the beginning of this video was talking about like all of the bureaucratic people that are all involved in the education. And I think one of the things is we need more teachers, high quality teachers. And a lot of those high quality teachers have taken the administrative job or are administrators and stuff like that. And yes, we need administrators, we need principals, we need educational leaders. But I also think if we're just focusing on that one question of like, what is bringing this the most important resource to our students, it's going to be the classroom teacher. And I think what we need to do is, get away from having so many decision makers, as I talk about those cooks in the kitchen, and getting more teachers, getting more high quality teachers that are inside of the classroom working with our students. Because I do believe the more teachers, the more touch points that students have with different teachers, not like in these huge settings of like 35 kids to one teacher. Like, that's crazy. Like what do you expect that that student to be able to get from those teachers? But if you're able to increase the number of teachers, high quality teachers, reduce that student size, give them more interaction for learning, I feel like that's that is going to set us better up, for success in the education. Like I just feel like we focused, we've grown so much that we've had so many other positions for like testing coordinator and, all the different admin positions inside of a school. And in reality, guys, we just need more teachers. That's it. If we can focus on getting the teachers, focus on the students' education, I feel we're going to see a lot better results than creating all of these new positions that are going to do this with this, but they're not going to get the results. And all they do, or a lot of times we see, is we create things for people to do and they can justify what they're doing, and it just goes all the way up the ladder, all the way up to the federal government. I think we need to reduce the number of administration jobs that we have and focus on getting high quality teachers. Now, the last thing comes into the reason why that is a very popular model is because that is also what a lot of times happens in our charter schools. And my last point that I'd like to bring up as far as fixing our educational system, and one of the reasons why it is failing is when I talked about like our public educational system cannot make changes quickly, but no, it can. Know who can? Charter schools and private schools. And because they run a lot leaner, right? Because their budget is not going through the federal budget, and they have a lot smaller. They have to be efficient as possible, not only with their money, but with the people that are running the operation. And I'm not fully against having private schools and charter schools, but I'm not fully for them either. I think the biggest thing that I have a pain point with is I am a pure public education proponent. And a lot of these things I might have said, you might say, oh, that's good or that's bad or, whatever may be the case. We can always have a conversation on nuances of the points made in this video. But I think my biggest thing that I hate to see when we are comparing public education to, private schools and charters is you can't compare them. You can't compare a model that is designed to teach a model that is designed that has to teach for everyone. Compare it to a model where the, charter schools and private schools don't have to accept anybody they need to, right? They get to choose, they can get to select who goes into their system. And that's not fair. It's not fair to compare the two. So what I would like to see as far as with the public schools is I don't have a problem with keeping charter schools. I think there's a good reason why we have charter schools in certain areas and certain districts, right? I think there's something to like a magnet school and a charter school, like there's a need at certain places. Same thing for private schools. There is a need. There's people that are willing to pay for, a private education. That's fine. But for public school, what I don't like is our public schools being, shackled, I guess you'd say, by the federal, I would say the bureaucratic of public education, right? They can't make the changes. They can't operate like a charter school or a private school because they have to always constantly follow everything going up the ladder. So if we can remove the restrictions from all of the public school, still give them the funding, we still want the money, but remove a lot of those restrictions that our public schools have to deal with, they can actually operate and compete with charter schools and private schools. But for right now, it's very difficult for you to compare the success of a charter school or a private school compared to a public school. It's a completely different system. And it's an unfair system, in my opinion, because I am full proponent of public schools and actually all three of them, being able to survive in our ecosystem. But we can't keep on restricting our public schools, not giving them the resources that they need to be able to adjust, to change, to operate as an educational system that our society needs, right? Because that is changing. And I try to mention a couple points in this video of how it's changing and what are some ideas that we can do to fix that. So I hope some changes will be made. I highly doubt it. And therefore I might have to get a little bit more involved. So you might see more of these videos coming up on this channel. But if you enjoyed this video or you have any more other comments about how to improve education, then go ahead and post in the comment down below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. All right, man, I got a lot of comments I did not able to get to. I'm not going to be able to do the math with you guys. Sorry about that. But let me go and see if I can get to some of your guys' comments because I started late. I apologize for that. This student, let me double check something real quick. Supposed to have a tutoring session, but I don't think the student emailed me. He did not. All right. Okay, so let's go and get to your questions. I'm going to go Well, hey, James, good to have you on. Missy, too political. It has no place in education. So glad it is my son's. Too political. It has no place in education. So glad this is my son's last year. Yeah, it's crazy. Politics has really gotten into the educational system. And, it's like one of those piece of pies that people are just going to fight over, fight over control. Right or wrong. I'm just a big proponent of education, and providing a high quality education for my students and all students around there. So I'm going to fight for students. That's my number one model and number one point. But you're right. You can see the political parties, they're like fighting over for their piece of control. All right. Because it's starting to be seen like a business, they waste their time taking classes that are useless to make money. I love you and respect you so much. You have helped me more than Beth. Well, awesome. So happy to be able to help you out. And yeah, I agree. It's the education is turning into like a business model, right? It's, it's like, how can we make money? And like, you look at the amount of money that like public schools are spending on like books, curriculum and stuff like that. Like it's crazy from on there. And, so if we can kind of separate that a little bit and kind of realize that school, be efficient with our funding as far as focusing on the learning, we might get some different outcomes. Hey, Anthony, good to have you. I'm glad you're on. I had half my education in Mexico and half in US, not to trash the US, but not enough teachers care and teach actual things that can be used in the career. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're trashing the United States. I mean, I think it's just a reality of what we've kind of done in our educational system to our teachers. We've kind of pushed out the best and just kind of retained ones that are willing to kind of go through it or to stay on, and it's unfortunate. That is a good that is a good movie. Hey, Miss Gwen, thanks for all your math you've done. You helped me in math. Well, awesome. So happy to help you out. By most teachers are only teaching because they're pension and hate your job. I wouldn't say most teachers. I mean, there's definitely a subset. I mean, of course, there's definitely going to be somebody that's going to show up and be like, I just want summers off and teach. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't meet a lot of those teachers. So maybe it was because I just taught at the same school, for 14 years. I mean, I can definitely say there's those teachers as well. Of course, there's people that are not good at their job that are able to do what they need to do to like fly under the radar and get by, right? A lot of those teachers though didn't last for many, many years, right? I mean, of course they're real, but they didn't like last the 14 years that I was at the school. The students, there's also a lot of teachers that put in like blood, sweat, and tears into a classroom, like would stay up till 8 o'clock at night, still at their school. I did that a couple years as well, and it's like, there's going to be extremes at both ends, but I would say most teachers in the middle were not just there collecting a paycheck, in that regard. They were just teachers just trying to do the best that they could do and survive within the system that we built. I believe that students are supposed to finish school at 16 or 17 and start university at a young age instead of wasting all their life until 30, 35 to be able to settle down. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think getting done with like formal education and as far as like the secondary, like 16, 17, maybe like, and then, yeah, if you want to go to university or take those AP classes, like go in, get it, it's like, don't be forcing me to like sit in a classroom, and just be a distraction, for all the other students that are learning things. Like, I think we need to be releasing our students a little bit younger so they can get on with what they need to get on with in life. Yeah, I do think teachers need a pay raise. You can't ask for the best out of people. And then when they're like struggling to survive, and and obviously I think the problem that we see is your price or what you earn is a direct result of your worth. Your perceived worth a lot of times is what people are willing to pay. And I think what we're starting to see is people are like, oh, we're not going to pay teachers this much, or, this is going to be our budget for the education. And like, let's reduce it. Right. There is so much inefficiency in how schools are spending their money and districts are spending their money. It's insane. We could probably still keep the budget the way it is and just give that money to teachers and not have to worry about And I have to worry about underfunding our teachers, right? But anyways, there's a lot of slicing and dicing and money being misappropriated once we get the money. But anyways, let's go into back to the teacher salary point of view. What we're seeing is teachers salary has not been valued of like, oh, you're making enough, right? You don't need any more. And guess what? The best of the best are saying, all right, well, that's fine. I'm not, this is what you want to pay me. This is what my worth is to you, right? Because they're public employees. Then fine. Then, we're seeing the best of the best leave. And now we're starting to see that, okay, this is starting to impact our children, right? Now I'm going to a school. I'm like, there's no great teachers available. Like, what do we need to do to get these people back? Now, again, is teaching going to be, on par with like doctors and lawyers? And like, no, I don't think any teacher signs up to, become a millionaire by the end of, the year. They want good insurance. They want good retirement, and they want to be able to enjoy their job and also be able to like support themselves at the very least and, possibly live on a family. But I remember like when I was last year teacher, I'm like, there's no way, like based on my wife's salary and my salary, like we could do this with 3 kids. Like, so, I mean, I would have had to retire. Like if it wasn't my ability to be able to continue in YouTube, like there's no way I think I could have continued doing, becoming a teacher like on that salary. And so it's very tough for a lot of real teachers. And we've lost a lot of amazing teachers because of this aspect. So I think we do need to have a discussion on the wage. I don't think it's something huge, huge change, like, but I think it's definitely something that needs to be fixed and addressed for teachers. Yes, I think eventually, I mean, it's going to work its way down. I mean, and I think we need to incorporate it. Like that's part of like the educational system changing. You need to be able to adapt. Like AI is going to take over. So we really need to be able to look hard into how we're educating our students, how we're using AI, how they're using AI, and make appropriate decisions and appropriate changes. So therefore we can provide a better educational, experience for our students. Hey, George, good to see you on. Thank you for teaching me how to solve system equations with the 3 variables. You are very welcome. Let's read off. Yeah, hey, Eddie. Yeah, I totally agree. Like after 16 years old, like you should be focusing in on something that you want to do. Like if it's a trade, if you want to go into a trade, or if you want to go into military, do some coursework for preparing for military, or if you just want to do like, just give me some classes, get my GED, right? And then I can like go on and work in my family business or whatever else. Or if you're going into college and university, you want to become, anything, anything else that's require further education, like go in, focus. Like I think after 16 years old, you should have an idea, hopefully, of where you want to focus. And again, if you don't, like that's totally normal too, right? I mean, a lot of times people in college have no idea what they want to become, but at least maybe hopefully you have some sort of direction or some opportunities where you can start, trying some different things and not feel like you were bogged down with everything. Hold on one second. I'm going to have to email this. Okay. All right. Hey, Cooper. Good to have you on. I'm a 7th grade learner Algebra 1. Is that good or bad? I think that's pretty good. Good for you. Continue on. Keep working hard. You got this. What state do you teach in? I taught in Florida. Oh, why'd you have to say that so many times? That's annoying. Hey, I'm an 8th grade learning pre-calc. Is that good? Yes, that's awesome. Most of my students in pre-calc were like in 10th grade. I mean, just know there's no rush. It's not a competition. Like, I don't care if you took pre-calculus in 3rd grade, right? It's what you're going to be able to do with that knowledge and what you're going to, how you're going to be able to use it. Like there's no medal for taking pre-calculus or anything else. Like make sure you're working hard. That's awesome. I think you are applying what you're learning, right? And do the best you can with it. But, don't compare yourself to others or if that's good or bad. Like you got your whole life to be able to make an impact. Okay. So don't feel like you have to rush through things to get faster, but obviously you want to do your best and keep on focusing on that. Yeah, it's a great system, but there's people who wouldn't care about school without the system. I'm not sure if I fully understand that, but I can see. Just looking through some of my comments. School system needs to be modernized 100%. So hopefully my points in this video added into that. Man, there's a lot of comments. Good for you guys. Thank you so much. That's an issue. They should fail us because we don't know circles. If you guys are planning to go to college, please save your math notes. They will be useful. Yes, you should definitely not have a burn party. Don't have burn parties. Don't just throw away something and then burn it, right? I remember there were some students that like did that after class. I'm like, man, how many times I got like letters, not really letters, but emails or DMs from students that are like, oh my God, I used your notes or I used your videos, you know, like my college class. Like, thank you so much. And it's like, yes, man, the stuff comes full circle. So keep that stuff. It's always a good memory. I don't remember. I kept all of my notes. I have even from college. I still have it. Now, I don't think that is more applicable to anything I'm doing, but maybe it is. Maybe I'll go back through it and make some videos on stuff. It's been a while though. Hello, I'm a student in college and cannot understand the college algebra course. What would you recommend for me to start doing or start off understanding before I keep going without understanding? You gotta make some inroads. You gotta make something that you're understanding that you can kind of build on, right? If you have no foundation, you're just like all over the place. It's just gonna be frustrating, you know, for you. So I really think in this circumstance, you need to find somebody in person that you can sit down with and like really kind of work with one-on-one so they can like understand where you're having your struggles, what you're not understanding, and build and help you build up from there. But if you're just trying to like watch a video here or there and like try to understand things, like there's going to be some things you're going to grasp and then some things not. And I feel like it's just going to continue your frustration. I really think having a one-on-one tutor would be exactly the kind of scenario that you need, and you can just go slow, right? Continue what you're doing, but like reserve your time with them to like, just make sure you know the basics that you need to know. So therefore you can understand what you're trying to learn inside the class. Love your videos and need your video. My son is so bad. I say everyone could be like to teach, but everyone has the talent to do so. Well, thank you very much. And yes, teaching is a skill. It is an art as well. And you know, if you watch my videos, I'm not by any means do I not feel that I, you know, craft or perfected my craft at all. But it is amazing to watch some of my videos I made in like 2010 and how I taught compared to like some of my videos I made at the end of my career. And it's like, the composure, the articulation, the questioning is just so much better. And it takes time, you know? And I think that's why it's so important to have high quality teachers, especially retaining teachers, because you can't recruit high quality teachers. I mean, yes, of course, there's going to be some students that are like a natural and they're going to do great in the classroom right off the bat. But a lot of people, it takes years and years of refining their craft to really kind of, you know, make it something where you're like, wow, you're a natural. And they're not, but they've been doing it for so long. You can see how they've improved through the years. Wow, there's a lot of things going through the comments, man. All right. Most of my community college instructors just get good grades. The one actually said it's so we can go to university and actually teaches. The broken economy of Cali doesn't help. Wow, how true do I like feel that is? Not so much that they're just doing it just to pass on grades, but I think it's like indirectly, you know, it's like I saw that in my high school as well. It's just like, why I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not going to be the gatekeeper for the student. I'm just going to give them the grade, let them pass through, right? And then when they get to college or, you know, the hard math class, like would be my class, like I'll let that teacher deal with it, right? And so you just have these students that just get passed through, right? There's no gatekeeper. There's nobody saying like, you don't understand the knowledge enough to move on. We just keep on pushing them through the system, Hey, you got a crowd, hey, you got your GED. Congratulations. You're going to be successful. Right. And then sometimes into, community college, and then sometimes even into university. It's like, okay, here's this, like there's no gatekeepers. And then sometimes we do get the gatekeeper, but then it's after they've already racked up like hundreds of $1,000s in student debt. And then they're like, oh crap, I'm not prepared for this. I think we need to have the gatekeepers much sooner, much earlier. I feel that's very, very truthful. Can I get a basic quick rundown on what has been talked about? I wasn't there. Well, cool thing about a live stream is you can just go back to the beginning of live stream and rewatch it. I kind of went a little overboard. Usually my live streams are like 12 minutes are my topics, but this is something I was passionate about. I'm not a teacher. Okay. Well, awesome, Room Catholic. You're very welcome. All right. Oh. 40 to 75 annual salary in 2023. Enough said. We need to reinvest in that heavily. Yeah, but I think the other important point though is not. There's a ton of money that we spend on education. A ton of money that we spend on education. The problem is it's not going to the people that need it the most, and that is the teachers. That is why I talked about the video at the beginning of this live stream. The money's not going where it needs to be going. That money, when you look like, if we audit what happens to the money that we give our schools and our education departments, like it is crazy how this money is being spent because we invest money. We invest a lot of money in our education, in our students compared to other countries. We invest a lot. The problem is it doesn't go where it's supposed to go. It doesn't go where it's serving the biggest impact. One of those is going directly to the teachers or providing to make sure we retain and recruit high quality educators. A lot of times, it's going to, paying for a lot of things that get changed it's like we bought all these things or bought this curriculum, and 3-5 years later, it's like, oh, a couple $1 million just wasted away. Now we're doing something else. It's like, come on, seriously? Agree. I'm in South Africa and I'm telling you the system is bad and teachers are discouraged by the government. For example, I teach 45 kids. That's so crazy. Yeah. And like, what are we supposed to expect out of you? Right? It's like, I don't care how good of a teacher you are. If you're trying to impact or to provide any sort of individualized instruction to 45 different students, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And then what do you expect? What do you expect out of it? To be honest, I got put into special ed because mostly my mom lied about some of the things on my checklist. She wanted a bus from home to my school. That's crazy. Yeah. And I didn't even talk about busing. Like a lot of money goes to transportation, a ton of money, busing system. And it's just not efficient. I rode the bus when I was a kid. I went to public schools when I was a kid, but I just think where our society is nowadays, like the traditional busing system is just not efficient. And we spend way too much money on it. Unless every bus is full, it's not making its money. It's losing money. So and not to say like we need to get rid of busing. Like, again, like people need rides. Like, again, like, I don't know your mom's, like you or your mom's situation, like, but like people need transportation. I think as a public school, like, providing that transportation, it's like, all right, well, let's come up with some ways though that are a little bit more efficient than just purchasing so many of these things, not paying our bus drivers, right? It's like cut costs wherever we can, but it's all because we're like having to invest, in every district having a huge bunch of buses that are not full. And we can't hire bus drivers to do it. It's crazy. I went to Western Michigan University and I have a degree in secondary education with an emphasis in math. Not until I changed the things I want to change, but I'm passionate about education. I really am. Hopefully you guys saw it in this video that I really want to make a change, and it's not just about my YouTube channel, but I really want to make a change and a positive impact for students to learn. So I love teaching. I would love to be back in the classroom, but that also limits me. It limits my voice. And it's time, I think, in my life to become more of a proponent, for students and for parents that aren't able to do that. And they don't have the platform that I do. So I think I want to take advantage of that and spend my time doing that. And also being inside the classroom, volunteering, subbing, still getting those interactions with students, because I can't get away from that. Still enjoy that. I met a ton of teachers here in Arkansas with second and third jobs. Now governor making kids do 75 hours community service to graduate on top of everything. That's so crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's like, the thing is, like, teachers are going to do it. Like, teachers are going to do what teachers need to do because they love teaching. And sorry. Your comment got to me, but, and the reason why it got to me is because stepping away from the classroom, I cried a lot, and it was very, very difficult. One thing I don't tell, one thing I've actually never told is, like, the day that I had to tell my principal, that I was going to quit. And I was just shaking and so scared to speak with her, about quitting, because I couldn't believe I was making that decision, and because I didn't want to leave what I knew. And I know a lot of teachers are just like that. They just don't want to give up on, the profession they love, the students that they love, and teaching. So, it's like they're going to do what they need to do to get by. And I think that's where the passion is. And those are the teachers that we need to retain. And, if it's finding ways to be able to get our funds in line so therefore we can support those teachers, it's like, people are going to make life decisions, right? Again, I made a life decision. It wasn't because I wasn't getting paid well enough. Teaching had ran its course in my life, but, man, it's like, we can only push teachers for so long before, we're going to start losing them. And we've seen what we've done, just with the classroom things that we've created for the teachers, all the hoops they have to jump through. And then, now with inflation and their purchasing power going down, it's like, I just feel it's getting worse and worse. And that's why I want to, fight up for students and give them the opportunity that, for the opportunity that they can continue what they love and enjoy, and they don't have to make a decision out of necessity, but rather they can make a decision to step away from the classroom because it's the right decision for them. Right. Which again was like more my decision, from on there. But yeah, sorry about that. I had, Misty, you got me on that one. Thank you. All right. Any high school teaching you? I'm on Discord. Let me go and see. Where's my Discord? You can go ahead and reach me on Discord. There you go. Check out my Discord. But yeah, it's a math help Discord. So if you have questions on math or you want to help students with math, check it out. Yesterday, Tuesday, thank you. Yes. Where can I ask a question? Right here. But if you have a math question, you can go to bradmclogan.com/Q&A. But I am not seeing like I'm having time in this case to be able to do that. So I won't be doing math questions tonight or right now. I'll leave that off for another time. I'm a mom of an 8th grader. Thank you. Your videos are so important. Well, awesome. So happy to be able to help you out. You're streaming this while you... Okay. Any tips for college students and linear algebra differential equations? I mean, just do the work, listen to the teacher, do the work. If you start to struggle, get help, right? I mean, there's so many other tactical things, but it's all basic, guys. Education is basic. Like, do the things that you need to be doing. And, do the work that your teacher professes. Do everything and make sure that you ask questions. And if you need to go a little bit above and beyond, you need more assistance, then do that. I know you only because my teacher used your videos last year, and ever since I've come back to watch your videos for method. Well, awesome. So happy to help you out. That's so cool. Of course. Hi. I'm a grade 11 student, and so far we finished rational expressions. Soon we're going to be going over exponential and solenoid dual functions. How hard would you say it's compared to quadratics and linear? It all depends. Every student's different. Some students kind of connect with them very quickly. And sometimes students, have very difficulty with understanding them, especially with the solenoidal. Yeah, that's just, it's a little bit different framework. It's kind of like going into geometry. It's like some students get it immediately and some students are like, I just don't understand this stuff. Exponential and logarithmic, that's very similar, I think, to the learning curve of quadratics or rational expressions. You'll see a lot of the same patterns, and which they're there as well in the trig, but I think just the notation and the vocabulary is a little different, so it throws students off. I definitely think there's some elements for sure that we could probably go back and forth on. I haven't taken it and I haven't taught from it or whatever else. Feel free to reach out to me on Discord if you have any resources or anything else you're going through. I really actually want to start making some content regarding that. But yeah, reach out to me on Discord if you have anything regarding the AP, because obviously I'm not inside the school system. I'm not aligned with AP or College Board, so I don't have any access to any of the content, but I'm all for it. I just hate just hate where some schools have to make the decision of either to provide AP Calc and not provide a traditional pass of pre-calculus and calculus. I just don't like how everything has to be AP. I think that's great for those students, but I don't think it's perfect world for everybody. Has to learn, nothing come by home. Happy to be able to help you out. Braxton. What do you think of Common Core math? I live in California. I never really had to deal too much with Common Core in high school setting, so I just don't really have an opinion. I mean, I think there's a lot that Common Core got right. I think the implementation of Common Core is where a lot of the issues went. There was a lot of the resources, the training for teachers, the directions for parents and understanding of why we're doing the Common Core just got lost in the weeds. It just kind of turned into oh, here's how we're now teaching things, and now let's just confuse and make everybody mad. So I think there's a lot of good reasons why we went and we're implementing some Common Core math, but I think the implementation went kind of horribly wrong. Yeah. Kind of weird, isn't it? Kind of weird. It's, I don't know. I mean, it's not to be a conspiracy theorist or anything. I just don't like how any company can have that much control over parts of our educational sector. I don't think any person or any company should have that much sway, So I just don't think that provides a healthy framework for an educational system. And that's simply put, just like not having all the political parties should run everything, right? You got to have that balance. And if you only have one company that's basically running all the testing and all the upper development, I just don't think that's healthy for our educational system. Where did those go? Why are those not populated on there? Huh. Oh, I meant to. Yep. We used to have Delta Math in my school when I use it. Oh, that's weird. I like signing back down. Okay. Well, awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging around with me on this extra live stream. Can you please bring a trig? I have tons of trig. Just search, go to my playlist, go to my channel, go to playlists, find trig. I have hundreds of videos on trig for you. Don't worry, I got you. But anyways, thank you so much for joining in. Sorry I was a little late, but I look forward to seeing you guys on next live stream, which is again going to be around education. Cheers.